What is shakin', Internet? This is Saltz bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Galakras Guide. Galakras. Yeah, Galakras Guide. Galakras, or the Boss of Many Waves, is the 5th boss in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid instance, and the first for the 2nd quarter LFR instance named the Gates of Retribution. For those of you in queue or fighting trash, a quick synopsis. One tank will fight all the adds in the valley, and one tank will go up the towers with a small group. 4 mini-bosses, 2 on the ground and 2 on the towers. First boss on the ground, don't stand in the pools and watch for her stacking DOT. Second boss will spawn on the south/left tower. Tower tank will wait for the group, then head up. Don't stand in his cone attack when he does it. Third boss will be back on the ground and pulls everyone in with Crusher's Call. A few seconds afterwards he does massive damage, so when he pulls people in, just run away for a bit. Fourth boss is on the north/right tower. She does a lot of damage, so don't stand in her cone attack. Once both turrets shoot the flying boss, aka Galakras, she'll land. Swap tanks at around 3 or 4 stacks of the DOT, or whenever your stacks fall off, and face the boss away from the raid. Okay, let's start on the real guide for dummies. The trash here is super annoying, but gives you an idea of what to expect in the main fight. You'll have to go all the way up the beach and kill all the trash packs at the various defenses along the coast. A lot of the trash here is also present during the boss fight, but in LFR it's pretty much ignorable. Here's the main idea for the trash. Switch to killing any totems or banners immediately, and interrupt any heals. Otherwise, you can mostly just AoE the packs together. Once all the adds are dead, the fight can begin by talking with the NPC at the docks. This fight is particularly long, but not particularly hard. The basic idea is that waves of enemies will spawn over and over again for your raid to deal with. There are 8 main waves, with a mini-boss spawning on wave 3, 4, 7, and 8. The mini-bosses on wave 3 and 7 will spawn in the valley where all the other adds spawn, and the mini-bosses on wave 4 and 8 will spawn on the southern and northern towers, respectively. The waves are a bit random and you'll have to deal with a large variety of adds, so I'll just cover all the types very quickly. Bone Crushers are the strangest add and potentially most deadly. They actually do not attack your raid or your tanks, but they instead try to kill the major NPCs in the fight. The NPCs have very high health, but these Bone Crushers have a Fracture move that does 10% of their health as damage. Stun, slow, snare, whatever you can to these guys to kill them ASAP, and mark them with a skull if you're so inclined, as they must die. In case I haven't mentioned it, if any of the NPCs die, your entire raid dies as well, so keeping them alive is important, but not very hard. Now, Tidal Shamans cast heals on their buddies, so interrupt them. Also, they create totems that must be targeted, and you can kill them fast. Can't AoE those down, unfortunately. Flag Bearers aren't much of a threat by themselves, but they will put down banners that buff all the adds in the fight. Kill their banners ASAP. The Grunts are generally ignorable, and the Flame Slingers just leave little fire void zones that you don't want to stand in. The only other normal add is the Wind Reavers, and they fly around too high for you to deal with anyway. These flying adds will be dealt with later, so just ignore them for now. There's one more add that is important to the fight, but spawns at the same time no matter what. Demolishers. Demolishers are not like the other adds, as they're giant monstrosities, but they play a very important role in the fight. They will attack the towers instead of the raid, and they will continuously stun any raiders that are in those towers and deal lots of damage to them. Because of this, they need to be killed before the tower group goes into the towers. These spawn right after the towers open, so before the tower group goes in, these adds, the Demolishers, need to die. That pretty much covers the adds, so let's go ahead and give a quick recap. You need to kill Bone Crushers immediately before they kill the NPCs. You need to interrupt Shamans and kill their totems, and the banners as well. After a tower opens, you need to kill the Demolisher quickly. There will be 2 waves of adds before any mini-boss, and 2 more waves after the first tower opens before the 3rd mini-boss. Now let's talk about the mini-bosses. There are 2 mini-bosses that will spawn on the ground, where all the other adds spawn, and we'll cover them first. The first mini-boss that spawns on the ground will be Korgara. She will make poison clouds, so don't stand in them. She has 2 adds that come with her called Ebon Stalkers. These will actually jump to random players and then hit them very hard, dealing pretty much lethal damage after a few seconds. Nothing really for a tank to do here, but those players do need to move away from them before they get one shot. Korgara will spawn in the 3rd wave of adds. The second boss on the ground is Thranok, and he will spawn in the 7th wave of adds. The tower tank will likely be back down here to help if needed, but he doesn't do that much damage anyway. He does, however, have an ability called Crusher's Call, which grabs a handful of random raiders and yanks them to Thranok. After a few seconds, he will cast Skullcracker, doing very high damage to everyone close to him. When he casts Crusher's Call, even if you weren't grabbed, you need to run away from him to avoid dying. Otherwise, he's a very easy mini-boss. Now, the other two mini-bosses will spawn at the top of each of the towers. The first spawns on the southern or left tower during the 4th wave of adds. Remember that the doors will open right before a Demolisher appears. Don't go in the tower until the Demolisher is dead, or you'll be continuously stunned and hurt. Mostly ignore the adds in the tower. They can just be pulled up to the boss and AoE down with him. Krugruk, I think that's his name, Krugruk himself is pretty boring normally. He only has 2 moves, the first of which is Arcing Smash. This is a cone attack he'll cast on random directions right after each other for 3 or 4 times. They do a good chunk of damage and knock you back a little ways, but are very easily avoided if you're standing anywhere close to him. He will also cast Thunderclap, which does a bit of damage and slows you down, but it also stacks. This will make it slightly harder to avoid the Arcing Smash, but not that much harder. Important to note that once this boss is dead, you need to kill the adds standing next to the giant cannon. Once these little adds are dead, they will stop doing damage to random raiders, and someone can then jump into the cannon. This cannon has 2 uses. First, you can use it to shoot the flying adds, killing them in pretty much one shot. Do this as soon as the cannon is available. Second, you'll need to use this cannon and one at the top of the other tower together to start the final phase. More on that when we get there. Now, once the first tower is clear, then just jump down and keep fighting the adds until the next mini-boss appears. The second and last mini-boss for the tower tank to deal with is Dagrin, and she will spawn at the top of the northern, or right tower. I'm honestly not even sure if she needs a tank, but better to be safe than sorry. Like before, the Demolisher needs to die before you go in. Dagrin herself will shoot random raid members nearby, and she'll also cast Muzzle Spray every so often. This does a decent amount of damage in a giant cone, which should be avoided. After Dagrin is dead, you'll have to kill the adds by the cannon again to unlock the second cannon. Once all the adds and all the bosses are dead, you'll need to use both cannons together to start the final phase of the fight. A raider, or 2 raiders I guess, should get in both cannons, and both will need to shoot Galakras as she flies around the area. Once she's hit twice in quick succession, she will land and begin attacking the raid. So we've covered the big bad phase 1, so let's recap. You need to deal with adds during every wave, focusing Bone Crushers, Totems, and Banners. A group should be assigned to deal with the towers, and as a tank, just make sure at least one healer is with you. The main group will stay and fight the first mini-boss that drops Poison Clouds. The tower group will enter the south tower after the Demolisher dies, and kill the second mini-boss, which does an easily avoidable cone attack. Then use the cannon to kill flying adds. The ground group will then kill a few more waves of adds until the third mini-boss, who pulls people in and does huge damage afterwards. The tower group will then enter the north tower after the Demolisher dies again, and then kill the fourth mini-boss, who will shoot people with avoidable cone attacks. After both towers are taken, shoot the boss with both cannons to start the last phase. Luckily, the last phase is pretty fast and easy, but it can be kinda brutal. The boss will fall down and begin attacking. She has 2 real moves. The first is Flames of Galakras. This is a giant fireball the Galakras will shoot at random raid members. Each person that touches it will get a stack of a fire DOT that stacks and stacks and stacks, but it will reduce the amount of damage the fireball does when it lands. Once it lands, it does a lot of fire damage to everyone in the raid, which deals less the more people that it passes through to get that DOT. This is all well and good, but from what I've seen, the most important part about this move is that the fireball seems to start on Galakras' target every time. This just means that you'll always get hit by this fireball at the beginning of her casting it. This will start hitting you for a lot, so it requires a tank switch. 4 stacks seems to be the sweet spot here, but most importantly, you want to taunt off the other tank whenever you don't have any stacks on yourself. Also important is positioning. Don't stand on the other tank, or both of you will keep getting these stacking DOTs. The only other move that Galakras does is Pulsing Flames, which is a raid-wide move that deals damage and continuously increases how much fire damage you'll take. This obviously means that the longer you fight Galakras, the more damage everyone will be taking, so you have to burn her down. Luckily, that's it for this phase, so we'll recap. Once the boss is down, stand away from the raid and away from the other tank, and taunt off whenever you don't have any stacks of Flames of Galakras. And That's it! Cooldown should be used during Phase 1 when you go up the tower to make sure that you can survive while the healers and DPS are catching up to you. Otherwise, get ready for some heavy damage late in Phase 2 while fighting Galakras herself, as it turns into a pretty intense burn phase. I hope you enjoyed this quick and easy guide for dummies. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.